Kovi. Kovi. Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Hey,
I'm here.
Kovi.
Hello.
Hello.
Whew. I am quite sorry.
You're,
I have
you're out of breath.
forgotten. Breathing. Breathing is.
Breathing. Breathe. Take in that oxygen, even though it's mostly nitrogen. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You right?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm excited about today because
What's.
today we're recording stuff about science, and that makes me happy. It makes me excited.
Yes. Science. Yes, I
I,
forgot today we were recording an episode. I knew I had something on this morning.
I know. Or this afternoon for those of you who are not in Australia while we're recording this. Like that it makes a difference.
I wonder what fraction of our audience actually is in Australia.
Oh, I love having that information at our fingertips. It's a long story for our listeners. We'll tell you another time.
It's great. It's straightforward. We the same platform that we use to upload the sound files, the MP3 files to
Mm-hmm.
the various podcast platforms,
Yes.
also gives us analytics. It also shows us how many of you fine people are listening to our show and where you live.
It's not
I'm
a
kidding,
joke,
just the country.
everybody. We can actually zoom in to the actual address within a block, I think, of where you are when you're listening. That's actually really, really fun. Just so you know, it's not like a moving target. We can't see where you are, but we know where you are when you push play. And then we go to there. And then we find the window. And then we
Yeah.
look in. And then offer you all kinds of free swag because we know you like our show.
Maybe I'm just imagining it, but that whole description sounds like suspiciously a lot like Santa Claus. He knows where you are. He knows what you're doing.
And he
He'll
knows if you're
come in
listening to
through.
this podcast about science. I hope.
In our eyes, that's considered being nice. But then he'll just like come in through any opening in your house and then leave you free stuff.
Does he do that? If there's no chimney, he just finds another way to break in. I'm not up to snuff on Santa lore.
I don't know actually. Has anybody like academically addressed that? Like how do children in apartment buildings or in most modern homes that don't have chimneys, like through the garbage chute maybe? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I'm sure he has a very fancy way of magically teleporting because Santa's kind of cool. I think.
Sorry, I've come in late, out of breath, and totally derailed the episode 4 minutes in.
You know, it's only October and we're already talking about Santa, so
Oh
we are
god.
way off the rails. Join us in November when we talk about Valentine's Day.
You know what I found out today? I not found out, like it wasn't a secret being kept, I just didn't realize. Um, the the pale blue dot photo,
Mm-hmm.
right, which was taken by the Voyager 1 probe of the pale blue dot that was Earth,
Yes.
was taken on Valentine's Day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, the photo was taken on Valentine's Day or received it on Valentine's Day? Because those are two separate things.
I know.
And
I know.
also, it was
As
a compilation of multiple images.
I
Mm.
believe the photo was taken. Um, yeah, with the travel time from out by the orbit of Saturn, or Saturn for our American listeners. Um, the travel time would have been, gosh, several days, right? I think. off the top of my head. Maybe that's
I
wrong.
know that Jupiter is 48 light minutes from the sun, and Saturn is considerably further than that. And
Oh, wait. So if we're still talking the light minutes at Jupiter scale, so it would maybe it'd still be within a day. It could only be a few light hours,
yeah,
the distance.
why
If
do I know
only
it's
there was a
48 light
tool
minutes? Oh,
that we could use to tell us the light distance to the planet Saturn. Like, why don't we have this ability?
I wish there's like some kind of, I don't know, global network of just all the knowledge. Oh well, guess we're gonna have
I
to
guess
just
we'll
guess
never
with
know.
we'll have to guess with sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, according to my abacus calculation here, it is, yeah, around an hour and 15 minutes,
Mm.
the kind of light travel time. So, yes. So, if the photo was taken on Valentine's Day, unless it was taken, after 11 p.m. on Valentine's Day, it would have also arrived on Valentine's Day.
I
Yeah.
am going to
So,
look
the
into this.
signal. The signal would have taken about an hour and 15 minutes to get all the way from Saturn back to Earth. And it's beautiful. If anybody listening has not seen the pale blue dot photo, stop what you're doing. I mean, stop everything. Well, not everything. Keep breathing and keep listening to the show, but
Right.
separately Google the pale blue dot photo because it's
It's a
just
beautiful, beautiful photo. It really, really was. The Voyager 1 had finished it, right? Was Voyager 1? Had
Mhm.
finished
Yeah.
its grand tour of the outer planets, and it was had nothing left to do except carry its famous golden record into space. No one knew where. And so while we still had decent control and decent, uh, uh, a decent, good view of the Earth or the solar system, the decision was made for the Voyager spacecraft to literally pivot and face backwards towards where it came from and took a picture of our solar system. It did not take a picture of Mercury or Venus because at that distance, they were practically right next to the sun, and that would have burnt out the camera, as I recall. But it got Earth, and it got Mars, and it got Jupiter. I think it got Saturn as well, and Uranus and Neptune. And it's this great photo, like this little family portrait. It's really really cool. And the pale blue dot image is very famous because, as luck would have it, at that one moment on Valentine's Day, apparently, everything had lined up just right in such a way that there was a sunbeam right across the screen where the Earth was. So it kind of made it a little extra special. That's good. It's a good photo. It's a good photo. It's a
You,
good photo.
you give me chills as well because, like, Carl Sagan's description,
Ah,
you're right.
yes.
It was a huge effort to divert the resources necessary to, as you said, to pivot the
Hmm.
Voyager 1 spacecraft around, right? Because this wasn't the point of the Voyager 1 mission,
Hmm.
to turn it around and to take a photo of the direction it was coming from, and just Carl Sagan's description combined with that effort, he just managed to. I don't know, like the man was a poet. The
He
way that he
was.
just described, those few bluish pixels that
Hmm.
were Earth as being, you know, all of humanity, everyone you've ever known or ever
Hmm.
will know or ever knew, you know, on this tiny speck of dust suspended
Yep.
in a sunbeam. Like, I'm not doing it justice. Go
Nope.
go find
You're
the
not.
recording as well. Nope, you're not. I won't even try to do the impression. I'll leave that to more talented people than myself and or generative AI tools.
Funny thing about that photo is after the Grand Tour primary objectives, which was just Jupiter and Saturn, um, they tried to get everyone to agree to turn Voyager around and take a look. But there was opposition. It wasn't science, people said. There's no real reason to do it. So it
Mhm.
drifted on. It passed Uranus. And then again, Carl Sagan and the rest, please, let's turn around and take a family photo while we can. And everyone said, no, no, there's just no science to it. And then
Just like every
finally,
family photo, right?
right. And so when they passed Neptune, they asked again. And the strange thing about this, and people have to understand, so much time had passed between the passage of Saturn and then the time when they passed Uranus that the people in charge had changed. And then when they passed Uranus and more time, it took even such a much longer chunk of time till they got past Neptune. And again, the hierarchy of the people in charge of various departments had changed again. And this time it lined up with some like-minded people that all thought, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And that's why it happened. And everything just it all shaped up really nicely. I liked it.
I, I liked it.
I'm a fan.
It is. It's definitely a really good point that you're making about how these endeavors um, in space they don't always scale to you know human timescales in a
Right.
reasonable way, in a way that we can relate to, right? So
Mhm.
for a NASA budget to be tied to a 4-year term, like a presidential term, it doesn't make sense because, as you said, these missions in some cases take decades, and that's not because folks at NASA and JPL and other public and private organizations are not working hard enough. It's just space big, space very big,
Space so big.
so big.
Space so big. I know that the New Horizons spacecraft that went to Pluto, I know it launched in May 2006. That's when my daughter was born. I thought, what a great month. I became a dad, and there's a spacecraft going to Pluto, which is still a planet, people. And then it took 10 years. 10 years. And then it got there right around my daughter's 10th birthday, around or shortly thereafter. And I was so excited to tell her, this left Earth when you were born. And she didn't care. But it's okay because it helps me keep in my mind how long it took. And this is one of our fastest traveling spacecraft ever. And it still took 10 years to get there. And it took people to monitor it and track it the entire time. And it was taking pictures the closer and closer it got to Pluto. And it took people to take those photos and people to analyze those photos. And again, human timescales and spacecraft timescales are vastly different things.
Be honest though, do you use your daughter's age to remember how long since New Horizon launched, or you use the age of New Horizons to remember your daughter's age?
I don't know. I think it's 50-50 until New Horizons got to Pluto, and then I just didn't care about it anymore. Now I'm just focusing on the kid. But I don't have to send New Horizons to college. So,
Oh wow. Well, guess that. uh,
what a lovely intro this has been.
yeah. Well, that actually we've come full circle to the actual topic of today's episode. In case you haven't noticed, you are listening to Science Actually Presents The Nerd and the Scientist. And today's episode is all about drawing ridiculous, absurd comparisons and analogies
Mm-hmm.
between children and
Yes.
stuff in space.
Yes. Yes. Or children and
Uh,
space robots. Let's get a little more accurate.
and we will, gosh, we will get right back to exactly that, the actual focus, after this ad break.
This is the best.
Ooh.
Woo! Oh man, I don't know. Should we make up a commercial or just keep laughing?
Today's today's show is brought to you by our wheezing and out of breath laughter. Are you having a bad day? Do you feel like the world is not a fun place? Have
Well
a
then,
listen to Kovi and Benjamin wheezing.
as they talk about space robots.
It'll make everything better. And you too can have the sound of Benjamin and Covey wheezing for the low, low price of 0.0000003 cents per decade.
Mm, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of deck. That's a lot of money. Now available in strawberry and cherry and grape flavors. Get yours now.
Are we not doing cola flavored? I was hoping. But that's
Oh,
still in the works.
no, coming soon.
Are we not doing cola flavored? I was hoping. But that's
Oh,
still in the works.
no, coming soon.
Coming
Cola.
soon.
Cola. Ah.
Today's episode is brought to you by the smooth taste of wheezing Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Imagine breathing in flavored air. Oh wait, no, that's vaping.
Oh God, I was thinking about those scratch and sniff things when I was a kid. You can
Scratch.
kind of smell. Yeah, there you go.
So
Anywho, good commercial. Good commercial.
great. Good stuff. And now, back to today's episode.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to. Hmm. Well, when the Voyager spacecraft was swinging by all those planets and taking pictures and stuff, it was able to see it quite well because there was no atmosphere between it and the planets. There was no light pollution. There was no atmospheric turbulence. There was no clouds in the way. Well, there are clouds on the planets themselves, but it had quite good seeing, as the terminology goes, for people who look at the stars through optical telescopes. Kavi has excellent seeing all the time because he uses radio telescopes, which
Oh,
is awesome.
I thought you meant because I didn't have glasses.
All right, because he doesn't also have glasses. I have glasses. Kavi does not have glasses. He has radio telescopes. Those are your options, people, when you get a little bit older. Do you want glasses or do you want massive arrays of radio telescopes that can see the beginning of time? Your choice.
I mean, one option is clearly superior.
That's gotta be my favorite thing I've said all day. Yesterday, though, was even better. All right, moving along.
Sorry, yes, go on.
Anyway, good seeing was the original idea for today's episode, but instead of staying on topic, we just decided to just riff.
It was a
Oh,
good riff.
it was an excellent riff. Excellent. Hey, did you know that the further away you get from a city, the better you can see the stars? The idea for this topic came up from my chatting with Kavi before. I went to a Pinnacles National Park here in California over the weekend, and it was freezing cold, and there were no clouds, and we were camping in a little valley, and the night sky was amazing, black, black, black stars that you just cannot see in the city. I was able to just with my cell phone, just aim up, take a snap, and I got pictures of the stars and Jupiter, and it was amazing. I mean, I couldn't see Jupiter in detail, but I knew the bright one was Jupiter, and that was what we wanted to talk about today. Just where can you go? What can you do to get good seeing of stars when you go look do your little backyard
Yeah.
astronomy?
It's I feel like every time there's an astronomical event that's interesting enough to get picked up by local newspapers and such, I always get messages from friends and family members who are saying, where can I see the meteor shower? How can I see the thing, right? A full moon or a full blue super hyper mega moon or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
happens to be, right? And the short answer is you just want to get as far away from light pollution as possible. So yeah, Benjamin mentioned that I'm a radio astronomer, so I use radio telescopes, and radio telescopes have to be built out in the middle of nowhere because you don't want to have radio noise, right? So radio is just a different type of light, just with longer wavelengths, and so yeah, you don't want to have Wi-Fi signals and cell phone signals and all of these radio wave light pollution to disrupt the radio telescope. And so, in the same way, for an optical telescope or for your own eyeballs, when you want to see, yes, your eyeballs right there, when you want to see any sort of interesting thing in space, just try to get to a place that's as far away from light pollution as possible, so away from big cities and street lamps. Um, you also want to make sure that if you need to use light to see something while you're out there in the middle of nowhere, try to use a red light or something that's
Mm-hmm.
like low brightness, because otherwise it will ruin your night vision. That's kind of like, I guess, the main thing that you should do to see these things. But gosh, it's spectacular, isn't it? Like the
It
difference.
is. It is different in the city at night. Even with the most light pollution, you can still see little twinkles in the sky. But like Javi said, when you take that time, you drive out a ways, and you're far from a big city, you might see a little glow maybe on the horizon. But looking up, you are just amplifying that natural light from the stars, and you start seeing structures, and you start seeing that big stripe of the Milky Way across the sky, depending where you're looking. Um, it's incredible to see, and it gets to a point you could even see with the naked eye, maybe possibly a satellite or two streaking across. It's easier to see a shooting star. One little tidbit I learned when I remember when I was in high school that on any given night, if you stare at one patch of sky and don't look away, within 10 minutes, you are almost guaranteed to see at least one shooting star. It happens that often. It's a little quick blip, a little streak, a little psh, but you can see it. I also learned something actually kind of interesting that if you go out to the places in the world where the light pollution is at its lowest, um, you start to even see some incredible detail. I mean, we all have this familiar uh, understanding that when you look at stars, they all kind of have this uniform whitish color. But there are some stars, like the big one that we all know and love, Betelgeuse, right? You can actually see a reddish tint or hue to it with the naked eye if you're far enough away and there's no more disturbances. It's actually really, really interesting. I've never seen it, but I know you can. It's an Orion, by the way, everybody. His top left shoulder.
Depending on which hemisphere you're in, I guess.
Really?
I'm like, obviously, if you're consistent with the how you connect the dots and draw the constellation, it will be the same in both. But like top and bottom would switch between hemispheres. So he would just be like, you know, doing an upside down headstand kind of thing, depending on where you're looking from. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that in the past. I think people don't necessarily take enough time to stop and actually look at this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I find it to be quite inspiring. Like you said, like
Mm-hmm.
you can do the same thing with the planets. You'll notice that normally, depending on the time of year and also how close you are to sunrise or sunset, you can see planets like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and sometimes Venus, and they'll be bright. You'll notice their movement if you stare at them for long enough. And also Mars, I generally tend to find I can pick out Mars as being, oh, that bright one. It's probably a planet because it's so bright. And also you notice the reddish tinge. And
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10. I'm right on that.
It's awesome. I love it. Jupiter for me is the one I'm usually pretty decent at picking up. It's just well, when you look at the stars and or think about the stars or read about this night sky as much as Kavi and I do, especially Kavi, you kind of tend to pay attention to little things like, is Jupiter going to be up tonight? How close to the horizon? Whatever. And then you go out at night and you look, oh, there it is. Just like I kind of thought it would be.
And yeah, what you were saying about the shooting stars and the streaks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I it's almost like the harder I go out of my way to look for shooting stars, the less I find them. But whenever I just try to take a long exposure photo, and most phones these days have that capability, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I know on the Google Pixel and I think the iPhones as well, you can do like a few minutes of exposure in like either an astro mode or a night mode. So I think I can do up to like 4.5 minutes on my phone. Just place it on a rock or on a tripod or something to keep the phone stable. And every damn time you'll get a satellite streak. Like
I
almost.
actually, astrophotographers, I found out, actually refer to this as photobombing. It's astrophotography photobombing. I learned this in preparation for this episode. That's the one thing I found out that just made me laugh my ass off. It's called astrophotobombing. There's nothing you can do to stop it
No.
because we have so many low orbit satellites um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, being launched in clumps, big groups. The technology behind it is astounding. And something like Starlink from SpaceX, the service that it provides is amazing. But they pump out so many of these satellites so quickly, they literally call them constellations because they're a great group of them just whizzing around the planet at all times in low Earth orbit. So they're small, but they're still close enough that they can reflect the light and just take a gorgeous astrophotography photo and streak it right down the middle.
It can get pretty frustrating, and also for radio astronomy,
Mm.
you'd think, oh, okay, so it's not reflecting light, but it's still giving off a digital signal, a radio signal. And Starlink, to their credit, they had tried to make sure that they were um, emitting on a frequency that wasn't preserved or protected for radio astronomers. However, there is unintentional radio leakage that comes from these constellations of satellites. So even though we're not picking up the signal that they're emitting at, they're still giving off like ambient radio emission that
Mm.
very much heads into the bands, the observing bands that we use to try to study the cosmos and get these deep images of galaxies and exploding stars. And it's pretty frustrating, but there's a lot of work that we're doing to try to mitigate that sort of signal to kind of mitigate radio frequency interference in general. A lot of really cool. There's a project I'm working on that's doing machine learning's approach to that, to changing that problem, to fixing that problem. Somebody else in my research group is doing a different version of RFI, radio frequency interference mitigation. It's tough, but we kind of have to balance those things, right? Of trying to utilize new technologies without allowing them to affect other things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm happy that there's a way to actually possibly filter it out. Hopefully perfectly. I doubt perfectly,
Hopefully.
but close.
But yes, I think our next episode is going to talk a little bit more about the other implications and impacts of light pollution and some of the other things related to that topic. For now, were there any final thoughts, Benjamin, that you wanted to leave our dear listeners with?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that looking at the night sky, Even if you have some light pollution, all you need is a pair of binoculars. If you have some, look at the moon. You can see some incredible detail. If you have a basic telescope, again, simple, big target. Look at the moon. Point it at the moon. It's easy to see, and you'll be able to see stunning, stunning views of craters, shadows. If you get a telescope on Amazon, I looked them up. They come as cheap as $20. If you want to spend a little more money, like $70, they come with eyepiece adapters that hold your phone directly, the camera directly to the eyepiece, so you can take some gorgeous shots. You can zoom in with your phone, and it's amazing the things you can see. You can see Jupiter, you can see Saturn. I've done it. You can get some pretty decent shots. You can see Jupiter and its four primary Galilean moons, just to see them. And you look at them again the next day, look at them again the next day, and they're always moving. It's a very cheap thing. It's awe inspiring. It's fun. If it's not too cold, you can be out there for a good long while. Enjoy. Drop me your handles, Kavi.
My handles on all of the great time wasting applications. You can find me at Fun Fact Science. I am online a little bit less than I used to be these days, as I am working on doing the science. But yeah, if you have any feedback on these episodes, or you want us to cover different topics, drop us a message. Me at Fun Fact Science. Benjamin, where can the good people find you?
Just look up science actually, or
Just look
actually
up. He's
science.
right above you.
Yeah, just look up. I'm right there right now. I'm 6'5", so I could be right above. Uh 2 meters, Kavi. Is that better? 1.98. I rounded up. Anyway, you can find us. You can find me on Science Actually or Actually Science on Facebook, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Hive, X, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Because you could be doing some professional research on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden you need a science fact. It's there for you. And Facebook's the big one. I don't know if I said that yet. There you have it. Alrighty. Let's put this one to bed and pack it up and ship it and stamp it and
Cut it,
get it out
print it,
there.
move it on.
Cut. Wow.
And we'll see you guys in the